let's talk about this post. Jon Spector's thoughts on the 2020 plans. Here's the big nuggets that he put out for us here. Number one, they're working on bringing back player cams. Great.
Sweet.
Number two, if the tournament structure goes well, June and July will also have same or similar tournament structure.
Fantastic.
And the goal for August/September is to have live in-person playoffs and grand finals.
Unlikely.
Nice. Yeah, but that's
nice,
that's
but
just
unlikely.
what you gotta.
That's state of where we are right now. California today, we just got our stay-at-home orders extended through May 31st.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Damn.
I'm
going back to physical work tomorrow.
Yeah.
Open shops again.
California is a little. I mean, I'm in Silicon Valley, so I think I don't know if it's all of California or just our counties, but I'm in Silicon Valley where it's like it's the tech hub, and so there's like, shouldn't we be doing this from home if we need to anyways, kind of thing going on. So anyway,
I think it's a very positive message to the fans that the hope is that they are looking to do a live in-person playoffs, but realistically, you could probably bet on that not happening.
I would be very surprised unless they delayed them in like a completely irresponsible number of months. If they're like, you know what, let's just do it at BlizzCon this year.
Yeah.
You know, like that's and here's the thing though, I wouldn't put it past them. Like it would be like, you know what, let's end.
Also, why isn't that already the case? That seems like a huge draw to be able to put people in like butts and seats at BlizzCon, whereas World Cup, it's like, it definitely fills out the arena that they have in the convention center, but it's like, you already have all of these other finals there. Why don't you have your Overwatch League finals at least like tied to, maybe make it a third day that everybody's been chiming in about for years?
They've been going away from that for the past few years, trying to get their world championships and like their real esports championship titles.
Like a standalone?
Away on a standalone. Number one, I think it just like breaks out the... like, what do? You're at BlizzCon. It's 2 days long. You can watch the Overwatch League World Championships, the Hearthstone World Championships, or the StarCraft World Championships. And if you love esports, like that's a sucky choice to have to make. It's not great from like an advertising marketing perspective because you have so many. Again, you're spreading out something that could be, or you're combining something that you could spread out. There's a lot of logistics, I think, there as well. And I think that the kind of fan service community models of World Cups do really well. And so I think it's a combination of all of those. But it would just be, it would just be cool to see. I would like it at BlizzCon because I get to go to BlizzCon every year. And I don't get to fly to Philly.
100%.
Oh, dang. Do we get the juice? Correction. Sources have confirmed that this is one of the options that Vancouver Titans have. There are several tier 2 options they've looked at. I apologize for jumping the gun to break the news. I will still keep my word. Whatever happens, I'll be leaving Overwatch League. And for that one, we give a big ol'... That one's for Dream.
You just can't do it.
Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, I get why they don't. I would like to see it there. I get why they don't. I hope that they don't try to. I hope they don't try to delay it multiple months, and then all of a sudden we have these 5 or 4 to 8 teams or whatever, 10 teams come in cold after like 2 months of nothing.
Right. That's my point with all of this. It's like a lot of this feels like very positive spin. Like, yeah, we're looking to make a potential live in-person finals for August, September, guys, even though that America's kind of on fire at the moment, but we're going to do live in person, or at least that's the plan, but that could change. We don't know.
I think it's
just
also,
be real. Tell me what you're trying to do.
Mention this. This is not a carrot on the stick that many people care about, I think. No. That's just like, okay. This net message needed to be a promise of something to hope for, because let's be honest, the retirements are multifold, right?
You see what I'm talking about? Yeah.
it's a thing of the situation not looking well, the game not being fun for some of them.
Are we jumping forward right now?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. Jump forward.
And of course the global situation as well. And there being an opportunity to jump to something, which looks promising. There is a glimmer of hope on the other side. And of course it's a grass is always greener on the other side thing. But if you're pushed to the point where it's almost like an environmental thing, that the confidence in the product isn't there, then you gotta give people a beacon of hope. And I was disappointed in that regard from this message because it wasn't one. No. And you don't need to necessarily convince us. That doesn't matter. Audience, you will see a lot of people were fine with the way this was mentioned, but you got to talk to your professionals and give them something to look forward to, give us something to believe in, right?
I'm going to make you repeat. I'm going to make you repeat this later.
Yes,
I'm going to make you repeat it because I want to go through these individual points.
Yeah, sure. Then let's do that.
So let's do it because I want to hear and I want to agree, but then I don't want to never get to the other points.
Yes.
Viewership and awards. By the way, this is why people are like, KickedTripod's a bad host. He cuts his co-host off. I'm like, you're right.
No, it's called structure, people.
You're right. Actually,
it's called structure.
You angry YouTube viewer, you're right this time. I did it. Viewership and rewards. Working with YouTube to improve discoverability. Sure. I bet.
Nice.
Token drops will return to overwatchleague.com in the app in the next few weeks, but not to YouTube right away. So no ETA on YouTube.
Yep.
Fine. I've never watched on either of those. I don't think. They're setting viewership records in Asia with the new time slots for those Asian stuff.
Not bad.
Great.
Whichever intern you had to write these paragraphs, I think they could get a raise. For this is one of the more the better worded I think parts of this thing where it's just hey, you know what, we're doing better in Asia. By the way, this whole thing's spin on
100%.
damage control, and we're going to talk about that at the end. But I don't know what working with YouTube to improve discoverability means because YouTube fundamentally is not discoverable for gaming and streams. Just period. It's just not. So
I would hope you'd be working with
that's
kind of an assumption, right?
Maybe it's as much as just
it's not
giving the YouTube channel just giving it like an algorithmic push where it's you have this oracle of an algorithm that nobody really understands outside of YouTube. We know some parameters. We hate most of these parameters that we know of. You already are giving based on what I've seen in terms of evidence-based YouTube promotion things. You're already giving mainstream media big ups in the trending tab in terms of the amount of views they need to get in order to get into the trending tab. Yeah. Just give us a little boost. Just make the algorithm go up and just make it unfair for everyone else to compete. You're in a partnership, right? Just boost it up, whatever. Nobody will notice either.
No, nobody's gonna know. Nobody has access to that kind of arcane magic where it's just all right, we're just gonna the spell here and push Owl into the mainstream and put it on the front page somehow. Oh, it's on everybody's front page. How did it get there? Nobody knows.
Yeah, and I'm all for that. And I would love it if they could make a special exception for Overwatch League to do that. That's great. Part of me just feels it's just you know what, they transferred over the discovery for their live streams from their VOD content, which is not how it works. I need to know when a stream is
when
live.
This is live. Yeah,
I need a following tab.
Yep.
I need a following tab. That should be simple. I need a live following tab. But whatever, they're working with them on that. Tokens. I never watched with the tokens.
It will help. I'm telling you, that's easy. 15K, 20K, 30K viewers. Telling you.
Tokens will help. The problem is that the Overwatch League website is an unoptimized piece of shit. And
it doesn't have to be optimized to be muted.
The extra commercials that I get on that are shit. And
so you just have one open over here, and then you have the YouTube open over
bad,
here.
But then all of the extra things that I would want to be doing on my phone makes it shit. So I'm a downer on this one here.
I can tell you brought the sauce today. You're cooking with it today.
He's juiced. He promised the juice, and we're getting the juice.
When it's finally something I can speak to. Yeah.
I know.
I'm just be mad about.
Yeah. It's just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But whatever. There are people who are happy about it. At the same time, I'm not impressed by I don't use the tokens anyways. I don't. Yeah. I just buy them with all of our Patreon money.
Here's the thing, which is also weird for me because
I don't.
There's something like if you want to have something with media, there's two ways or not two ways, but there's like a spectrum you can go on, right? You can either attract viewers that are very, very lucrative to cater to in terms of also what they are willing to spend and make a hardcore experience for them, so they spend more per capita, right? Sure. Or you can just spread wide and have nuts viewership. Now, it always seemed like with the localization, with like people buying more jerseys and stuff like that, spending more on their, and that was always talked about pre-Overwatch League, that esports fans spend like a magnitude less than sports fans a year on their hobby as esports. So the thing is, so you have the high quality fans, like the guys that go to the home stands, that watch, that buy the jerseys of coaches that soon switch the teams and then become obsolete in terms of that, and it now lies just in a cupboard.
All right, we're out of here. We're done. See you next time. Jeez, I've never been attacked like that on my.
So you got the high value targets there, and then you bolster that with like the lowest value targets you could possibly. Someone who doesn't even want to put $2 into a skin, but would rather watch 20 hours to get the same skin. Dude, that is someone that definitely serves the meme of like, stolen laptop, like neighbor Wi-Fi. Like, how do you reconcile these differences? That number then doesn't mean that much. It's also an important thing to notice. We don't necessarily need the viewership of an LCS, for instance, in order to like be just profitable, right? Theoretically, because we could be spending more per capita. We're not sure if that's our system is leading there. I also don't have any information on that, but it's very possible that you can that you can attract stuff like that. Sure, because depending on what, like every streamer will tell you, it's very different what kind of viewers that you attract. It's a very different demographic or like feel to the community, and depending on what kind of content you put out, you attract people, and then either they're monetizable or they're not, blah blah blah, right? Like so for instance, someone like, just to give a brief outlook, like someone like Rekful that in the past pulled like between 20 and 10k viewers, only ever had like very little subs in comparison, like 2k subs most of the time. That's of course, now put that against like some of the Just Chatting streamers, of course very different, at 1k viewers, 4k subs or something like that. So that's the method I'm talking about. Now, this doesn't move the needle. It just makes it a little bit more impressive, but theoretically the per capita spending goes down. Now, of course, yes, more people will get eyes on it, and let's be honest, someone that doesn't watch the streams and just has it on the background, theoretically also is kind of like bullshitting the viewership sponsor, but we take it from the pay pigs. That's all fine. And like let's bolster the numbers a little bit in that regard. But it's really counterintuitive.
Here's the thing, though. Even if it doesn't actually add viewers, it just shifts viewers. Overwatch League is making more money than this because they're running their own ads on the MLG platform. And so and you get a lot more CPM on
all
MLG
platforms.
Yeah.
I'm getting WoW Arena ads now. Legend of Soul Guard. I know everybody's pumped about Call of Duty as well.
I have never heard of that game before.
Yeah, well,
yeah. Anyways,
you have now.
I don't know. Yeah, that was great. Cool info about Asia, but also a little bit no duh ish on this. So okay, cool. Player retirements. Sinatra will still get his MVP skin in the next few months.
That's a good decision.
Great. It's just
good.
No, it really is. They could have easily just like flanked.
Yeah, they could have been. I wish they would have gotten
him.
Petty.
I wish they would have just gotten him an emote that disconnected that player from the game. You're just a quitter. But yeah, they said they're gonna do it. That's great. Fine. They would have faced such like awful backlash if they 100%. Did it. They're well along in designing it, so it makes sense. Didn't make
apparently they're done with it.
Here's my problem about his whole spiel about player retirements. He didn't make a single comment on the criticisms about the game, but instead fell back on that this was about players competing at a high level in a scary situation. I don't doubt that, playing from home and playing on ping and stuff exacerbates some situations and emotions and the emotional health. I don't doubt it. But I don't think that if we're all doing homestands, I don't think the situation is much better. I don't think that that's what keeps Sinatra in the league. And I'm really upset that that's not what he addressed here. Instead, he pawned it off as players needing to do what's best for them. If they can't, you can't handle the heat, get out of our kitchen. We get that kind of thing. That pissed me off a little bit. Yeah. And I know that there's a lot of hardworking people who, will insist that they never worked an honest day work in their life. That's fine. And they're probably pissed at what I'm saying right now. But it really irked me when that was the way. This is the intern you fire. So the 2020 season plans, they keep their job. It's fine. Viewership and awards, give them a pay raise. The player retirements one, fire them. Address it straight on. Because at this point right now, like these are just the confirmed players who are actually leaving or have left. We ain't at the end of that train. We haven't found that caboose, if you know what I'm saying. No. So, I needed more. I'm at the same time, I know a lot of people found this reassuring.
Sure. I also here beyond like what everyone is consciously able to express in order to make their case why they wanted to retire, right? It's like a lot of us is subconsciously driven by whatever environment we're encountering in. Sure. And it's very true that maybe even if we had the viewership collapse, if the arenas are full, that vibe, that subconscious like impending doom is not on the player then, and it's a very different environment. I need people to understand that whatever you think about the game would be massively exacerbated by travel. It would have been nuts in what's this is the big lesson that if you think like the stress that is coming from COVID is nothing in compared to what travel would have done to some of these people, especially the ones with the large travel requirements. Of course, case by case basis. If you have family that's like in a thingy situation, I'm talking aggregate in what it does to the system.
Sure.
The things that need to be done is things like make it mandatory for every team to have like a psychologist on stuff or like a performance coach, someone to talk to. We had Curry Shot on the podcast talking about how working with a guy like that made him realize that the ways he was working, these absurd hours, is not going to be like a thing that you can pull off for the longest time, but the system requires it. What we need for next season is a significantly longer season, or that like I would say less games, but that is even more stressful for players because less games means stakes of regular season are higher.
Yep.
We need more time for these people to de-escalate, and we need less changes for that time for them to be able to prep. So there are diminishing returns to the hours they put in, and they don't feel as inclined to be there. It's bad, dude. Like last year, it was already bad in terms of like mental health and stress and everything. This current situation, of course, like the entire world is going nuts. there's one big competitor launching, like everything's coming together. But even if this entire thing hadn't happened, the big determining factors are still here, and you would still see that shit show. It would still definitely be on your doorstep, and we would be having very, very similar discussions with, yes, you having more opportunity to wipe that under the carpet, under the filled arenas that no doubt the homestands would have attracted. But that isn't enough, and that's also not doing right by our professionals. I talked to some guy who would know how much pro CS teams would practice a week. It's half of Overwatch pros, if that. There are pros in the top 10 that haven't touched scrims in like weeks before they go to a tournament. Not touching the game you're playing, while our guys are going 80 hours, not like working themselves to the bone because the game keeps changing. That's not permissible, dude. You got to change something. You either got to build in de-stresses, got to give them professionals to work on. You got to make more time for more breaks. You got to ease out on the constant differences on what the game is like. Even if we're going back from hero pools, that's once again a change. We're having Overwatch 2. Maybe you're changing systems there.
Yes.
Dude, when are people actually going to settle down and just not tilt off the planet whenever they see a blue post? Like at this point, it's getting to a PTSD level of outrage, where it's like, I'm sure like a lot of people still enjoy the game, and the environmental aspects of it are making it so. But dude, if we wanted to have a league, even if everything works super well, and it needs to with Overwatch 2, we got to make some amends. We got to listen to these professionals, especially the teams that are telling you exactly this, and that you have shut down for the longest time, that you're not talking to. It's a ridiculous situation, and everyone that knows what's up, especially from those teams, read that post, and you made them more mad. It's nuts. What is going on? This is a nothing burger.
It really is. That's what I took away from this. To get back on track.
Timestamp that, yo.
100%. Great. Fantastic. Touched on a lot.
Get that in there. Why not?
Wax lyrical. To kind of get back to the comment about, if you don't like the heat, get out of the kitchen. I think what people really wanted from this was some reassurance, was some positivity, and that's why it got so much traction, so many awards, so much upvoting, so much praise from the community. They want to feel reassured from this, and I don't know if this is necessarily the message that should be a reassuring one. Again, like Yiska said,
it wasn't.
It flat out was not. It was a spin, nothing burger. That was everything is positive. Everything's rosy.
Good. Yeah, there's some good stuff in there, like the tokens and whatnot. We're not like the viewership being up in Asia. These are good.
It feels like again. It feels like the constant thing that game devs do, where they take stuff away from you just to give it back to you and be positive, like to get praise for it.
We don't have command center.
I feel like what we should be doing is just like put all of that out there. Like, just call a spade a spade. Let's
talk to me like a human.
Objective to what's going on, and then then give us the opportunities to help you out. Open up the scene. That's the next topic, of course. Like, open up the T2, T3 scene. Create some buzz with Overwatch 2. Lay the hands off. Let us create the esports that we want and build around that. Yes, you like the percentage share of the profit that you will be making will be smaller, but the pie will be bigger. So just let us take over and let us build this esports that you've suffocated from the beginning when building this, giving like people so like ridiculous outlines in terms of what the esports should be looking like. Us never finding out what it really could be.
I don't want to interrupt you, Yiska, but I do want to get people who haven't read this an overview of what Jon Spector said about the Tier 2 Path to Pro. Basically, that it hasn't met expectations. They're actively exploring potential changes to the Path to Pro model, including opening up the system to more community tournaments. And they did bring up the barriers, breaking barriers and echo tournaments as examples there. So there's a little bit to read in. Is like, do they mean like we can get monthly melees back and like that could be a Path to Pro? Or do they mean like, you know what, Blizzard is going to make more fun one-offy things and then that's going to be a path to pro? I'm assuming that latter can't actually be as serious. It can't be as serious. So you can keep this intern, but I would choose better examples.
Are they on probation, John? Is this the intern on probation?
This is the one where it's, you're just like, we're moving you downstairs into the basement.
You can still work here. You're not fired.
Wi-Fi,
but
shitty Wi-Fi. So it's just, and here's the thing, right? Like a lot of these big, there are people who really enjoy Overwatch as a game.
Sure, it's an amazing game.
The tier 2 path to pro system does not allow players who enjoy the game to compete.
No.
It just doesn't. Like there's not enough of them. B, there's the path. It's like what's the forest in Lord of the Rings where like you step off like 1 foot off the path and you're lost forever and dead? Is that Mirkwood Forest? I think it might be Mirkwood.
Step away from that one.
Anyways,
hands up, don't shoot.
It's the Mirkwood Forest path here, and it's just. And don't get me wrong, he said the right things here, and I'm I'll give him a benefit of the doubt, thumbs up, and saying,
sure, great,
you at least acknowledged that the way things are currently being done are not the best thing for tier 2.
Mm-hmm.
But the skeptic in me also goes like, there's no actual active talent. They said that the tier 2 contenders team is exploring options.
Potentially.
I'm like, exploring is too late.
Oh.
I need like it's too late of a time to be exploring. You should have been exploring between season 2 and season 3. That was the latest that you could have still been exploring to have an active plan to make me not feel like, oh, well, we're going to lose all of our good players.
Yep.
We're going to lose all of our good players in tier 2.
The fundamentals of this game are so good theoretically, right? Like it's that, okay. Let's take it a swing because there needs to be, we can't just shit on it, right? We got to say this is, some things are up and some things are going towards being massively better. I would argue that all the development in that regard is true, and it also makes me feel better about the game. Let's just call a spade, and also calling a spade is also to recognize that the game has been much more fun than it was a year ago, simply because of the introductions of all those systems. 2-2-2 was a great change for the game in terms of like the general player base wanting to play. Okay, that's not true necessarily for the pro players who have to wait a long time, especially the DPS ones.
Sure.
Maybe we got to figure out something for them. But like hero pools, I would even argue are still fun in the lower levels because it takes some of the anxiety away that you have when, like, if I'm playing Ashe, everyone flames me for picking Ashe because it's a suboptimal pick to, when Widow or McCree aren't banned. So in that regard, I think that added something to the game in the lower levels at least. And in general, if we look at the trends, like we talked about it last show, like search volumes are up for rank, people are wanting to get better. So the upwards trend is there. We're currently in the mood valley, but we're not in the performance valley of this game. Performance valley was 6 months ago when we had heard nothing of the hero. We will talk about this in the future. Echo, super amazing hero. Also, I had a lot of fun watching that. So, like, let's not be overly negative and say that we're just trying to polish a turd here. That's not what we're doing.
I don't think anybody's saying that
we would be out if it was a turd.
If
the three of us wouldn't be here if this was a turd. Like, let's be real. The show might be a turd.
This is more a criticism of what's being said. Not necessarily the performance of things, because like you said, Echo's seemingly doing good for the game. Hero pools, weirdly enough, the casual fan base seems to be interested in coming back to the game. Maybe that's tied to Echo. Nobody knows. I'm not sure. We don't have those numbers. We can only assume. But I think it's a safe assumption to say that, right? This is more of a criticism of what's being said here, because tier 2 path to pro section is exactly what I've heard from this development team. Not necessarily Jon Spector. Again, he's not a developer. He can only say what they give him, right? This is what I've heard year after year after year. You mess up, you f up, and then you tell me that we're going to maybe make a change in about a year. That's going to try and change the game for the better. We already had a change. Tier 2 just got a change. We simplified the broadcast. We removed a lot of the tier 3, observing for some of these lower teams, and we're just going to try and put on the best games possible. That was supposed to be the solution. Apparently it's not. So what is it? Can we find something that works? Not necessarily find something that works, because that sounds, very reductive, but can we just find something and let it ride out to see if it works? None of these.
I would
systems
argue
are giving,
for some of these systems, we gotta get
sure, 100%. You have to
realize
you have to completely triage 100%. But why does it seem like every system seemingly sucks?
Yeah,
hero pools is nothing.
It's very easy,
completely unhealthy.
Well, and they've changed it now to be just masters and grandmasters.
I still have my gripes with that in terms of like the competitive level, but that's a different discussion.
The thing is, we're taking the wrong lessons. We're taking the lessons from traditional sports that is not necessarily in our factor, and where regular seasons just work. They don't. So this stuff like this. So everyone, like I felt like a broken record talking about tournaments and stage playoffs and whatnot, and how that was obviously like, yes, that is a great change to now improve, take that, because it would have been hard with a travel. Sure. But that is the lesson. Mm-hmm. Act on it in the future. Mm-hmm. If that is not in the next season, you learn nothing, bro. Like, you really are resistant to learning.
So, okay, to their credit, I feel like the solution to that problem was the mid-season tournament, right? Like, that was their attempt to try and say, enough. Okay, and I agree, it's not nearly enough, because like one extra international competition for this global league that's going to be completely stressed out of their mind with travel, barring COVID and what happened with that. That wasn't going to be enough to kind of float the extra, positivity narrative to get us through. You need something, and if Hero Pools was designed, way in advance to season 3, and that was always going to be the thing that was going to hit along with travel, this was always going to happen. Like this, the negativity, the sell, like not the departures, the exodus of some of these players was always going to happen. Like, this is not something that you can feasibly do for an extended amount of time. I like where your head's at, to kind of go back to the player retirements and looking at, how structurally the game is played. The game is so open. There's so many different game modes, different maps, different points, different characters. You're rewarded for switching. It's too much of a sandbox. You almost need it to be a little bit more guided.
It was interesting. I was sitting hosting the Valorant tournament over the weekend, and I had Avril and Ryan Central were on the desk with me, and we were talking back and forth between Valorant and Overwatch, and something that I had brought up was Overwatch League is the best designed game I've ever seen in my life. From like if you take the individual pieces of the game, the sound design is amazing. The art design is amazing. Sure. Like, did you see the screenshots that the Overwatch League Twitter showed about like shots from the game or whatever? They were completely like cinematic and beautiful, and there's no other esport or game in the world that gives you those types of screenshotable moments, and those just all come from like the spectator replay viewer, right?
Sure.
Just it's an amazing design game, but there's just these fundamental flaws that for whatever reason we've been unable to address. And I feel like every seeming step forward has been 2 steps backwards.
I think at this point, I want to give the developers the benefit of the doubt. I want to give the league the benefit of the doubt. But at this point, it feels like you need to check your confidence. You're not the adult in the room anymore. To Opti's point, I think he has a great analogy on a fantastically written article that I suggest you all read. You don't know better. This isn't. You have to kind of check the hubris here and kind of change fundamentally this game, because if Overwatch 2 really is just a cosmetic update, we're going to have the same discussion in 6 months. We're going to have the same discussion 12 months later, and then 18 months later. And I don't know how long we can have that discussion until, something actually gets done, because potentially changing a model and changes are coming. and Overwatch 3 is coming. That only go last so long.
Yep.
We need actual healthy updates. None of these have been healthy.
I want to talk about last week's games, and before we do, we need to play this.
You're being such a bummer.
That bummers though.
Yeah, I tried not to be, but okay.
I think we all did.
Actually, a nice little snap. It's a nice little snap where you just go, oh yeah, I was in that zone.
You know, it's just like, Katie, thank you, and Chengdu Joe, appreciate you bringing us back into reality a little bit.